And we are live. Welcome to Digital Renegade Podcast. I'm your host, A Dashing Rogue, and today we're going to be finishing up the Brave New World riff track. So, like, favorite, subscribe, and let's get this show on the road. Let's kill this thing.
All set?
Yep, all set.
Oh, I knew you really wanted to be with me. You do, don't you?
Nina, I want to be with you always, forever, for all eternity.
So this is the thought, right?
Don't say things like that. First you say such nice things to me, and you talk to me as if I were some awful bad woman.
Oh, no. You, so perfect and so peerless. Created of every creature's best.
But if I'm so perfect, then why haven't you asked for me?
Because I'm not worthy of you.
I'm not worthy of you.
In my bill should not pay, I would have brought you the skin of a mountain lion. But here I do not know what it is I should do to prove myself to you. Nina, set me a task, anything. I'll make mountains level and the continent melt itself into the sea. Oh, mistress that I serve.
This guy's such a fucking...
Who makes my labors pleasure.
At least in
Only
this fucking context.
Let me fetch and carry for you.
But why? There are machines to do everything. Or at least Epsilon semi-morons. Besides, you needn't do anything at all.
Automation takes care of that for you.
Take me. Oh, please, take me.
Just fuck her.
Please, make me quick. I'll set my dial so you can drive me wild.
She wants to take a ride in her disco stick.
Oh, hug me. Hug me till you drug me. Give me a kiss that's full of bliss.
Oh, shame, where is thy blush? Stop it, whore! Get me to a nunnery, go!
What?
Assume a virtue if you have it not! Out of my sight, damned whore!
A gram is
That's
better
being
than a gram.
forgotten thought.
When your nerves go jingle jangle, a song will make you spick and spangle.
Fit you nor the soiled horse go to it with a more riotous appetite. Oh, frailty, thy name is woman. Was this goodly book made to write whore upon it? Gods unlucky. Gods unlucky. Yes?
John Savage,
Yes, this is John Savage.
Linda Lysenko,
How serious?
approaching terminal bliss.
Before you're dying in hospital, I'll be there right away.
So what are your thoughts on this so far?
She's confused. She doesn't get it.
Well, she's a beta. I mean, she is a beta female, so I mean...
Like, it's just purely autistic on a level that's unparalleled. I mean, she doesn't understand what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I did love you. Once. Love is madness.
And that's ultimately what this future is. Just a world where people
John?
are not even people anymore.
Yeah.
That's the first time she's ever been, like, reflective of a kiss. It's like, what is going on here? Oh yeah, this is where we left off, where she is about to check out his book. Still trying to figure out what it... She's still trying to process the whole thing.
Well, I mean, she's a retard. I mean, she's a thought, right? So, I mean...
These telecoms, all right. Yes, sir.
Dandy nurse, what is this commotion about?
He insists on going into the intensive euphoria unit. Are you the head dandy nurse?
Yes.
My name is John Savage. There's someone here. Linda Lysenko. I
It's
have to see
pronounced
her.
I'm sorry,
Savage,
but no
but
visitors
okay.
were allowed in the IEU ward without permission from the chief dispenser.
I received a call she was dying.
Of course. We naturally assumed that you would be glad to hear the news.
I'm not glad to hear it.
Well, we can't have that. After all, death is happy, death is good. I'll see that you get an amphetamine pill.
No, I don't want a pill. I just want to see my mother.
Mr. Savage, we don't allow that sort of dirty talk in here.
That is all, Nanny Nurse.
Yeah, mother's a
Chief
four-letter
Spencer.
word.
Now then, Mr. Savage, I assume that you're here about Linda Lysenko.
Given
But
how
I can
they
only
did
tell you that she's doing
destroy the
extremely
language
well.
in this,
Her megasoma infusions have had to be slightly
might
increased.
very well
But she
be.
really seems quite cheery and happy, as of course is normal. Altogether, we're quite pleased with her condition.
You mean she's going to be all right?
She is all right, Mr. Savage.
But the telecall, they said she was dying.
Yes, any moment now, I should imagine. Tests indicate it will really be quite quick and simple. No need at all for a simple euthanasia treatment.
May I see her first?
I can't imagine why. But she's through there, in the final euphoria lounge. Don't disturb the others who are dying.
Yes.
Hey,
of course.
Tom. Hey,
Death
Linda.
is social, and death is shared.
There. Yes, exquisite, isn't it? Of course, I can't do the sort of finished artistic work they do in post-termination with molded plastic application, silicone injections, and pigment infusion. Still, I actually prefer the little, what shall I call it, lifelike quality that's always lacking in post-termination.
This
What the fuck?
isn't Linda Lysenko.
The blow-up doll.
No. I was going to start next on her. And believe me, you absolutely will not know her when I'm through. No, but the results are so much better if I can start while they're still in a pre-terminal state. No! Well, if you don't care how she looks.
Well, I mean, she's gonna die. I mean, don't doll up a corpse. Given how many people fucking engage
Linda.
corpse.
John. Were you playing outside?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have to study now. So, when we go back to the other place, you'll know everything. Mm-hmm. Say your alphabet now with
They have an alphabet still?
A, B, C. Vitamin D. The
A is for amphetamines.
I've forgotten.
B is for Benadryl. Or benzos.
A, B, C. Vitamin D.
C is for cocaine.
That's in the liver. The cards in the C.
That's it, that's
E, F, G,
G.
H, and I. Forwards in his flavor.
Liver.
And there's goodies in the sky.
God.
Right. I don't know. Oh, she's still alive. You're dead.
John? Is that you? Don't go away again.
Right. There's just music's lingering a bit too long. Maybe I'm a
Tell
consumerist.
me again about
The rabbits.
what was it?
Tell me about the rabbits, George.
The pretty lady dreaming.
Mm. Tell me that now, please.
But no sleep. Sleep and see what visions I have seen. What towers cloud capped. And men that like angels fly. Thither shall we go, you and I, and sup perfection.
Now, children, everyone will get his turn, and the one who does the best will get an extra Soma Clean treat. Yay! You don't mind if my class plays a
It's
little,
like
do
they
you?
lace their
Oh, no, not at
drugs
all.
with their
That's
fucking
part of the fun
candy.
of my job.
Good.
Or their candy with drugs.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Get set. Go!
Oh yeah, they got watch.
Along with it.
Thrilling. You understand? Leave her alone. And get them out of here, you understand? Get them out of here!
Certainly not, Mr. Savage. You should know by now that this is a prescribed death training class. How dare you interfere with the children's death conditioning?
Get them out of here!
Just don't make them play Call of Duty or something. Fuck.
We'll go play
They'll
somewhere
die
else.
so many times they won't even care.
We'll have a nice game of Hunt the Zipper, and then we'll go to the crematorium, and we'll have lots more fun.
Really?
This is the world that Clinton wants. Hunt the Zipper.
It's John, your son.
John. Hold me. I feel so...
I feel like I'm watching paint dry, or rather, somebody dying.
Well, that is the idea.
Like, can't we just, like, I don't know, give her a lethal injection or something?
Well, they didn't need to. They said she was so comfortable.
Help me. Please help me.
Yes. But there's nothing at all wrong. She's just dead. Attention in the intensive euphoria lounge. A new happy one has just passed on. They'll be right in to get her. Are you sure she wouldn't benefit from a little touch-up before...
And then come the frickin' same-looking people. Fucking afro people.
Yeah. Is it the Gammas, is it?
Yeah, the ones that Vox always bitches about. I swear, he has it in for those people. Maybe it's because he used to have an afro and then he lost it. I know. Horrible. But they do have some kick-ass fucking slacks, man. Those are kick-ass jeans.
Yep.
What are those, like angel tops or something? Around the same time period. Well, the Fifth Forbidden Planet territory now.
And she's gone. She recycled.
Be recycled. Hey, maybe this is not soiling green levels for fucking recycling. We might actually do one of those. I think next near future. That's another movie that I think a lot of millennials see.
Yeah.
Especially with all the vegan shit out there that's supposed to be organic, but we never heard of those fucking chemicals happening.
Run mind their own business while he's in horrible misery.
Yep. Just like real life. Shit.
Please form yourselves into lines for soma distribution. Thank you. Please form yourselves into lines for soma distribution.
Yeah, get your medication. 6 o'clock. Get your medication.
Please form
How
yourselves
many
into lines.
goodly creatures there are here. How beauteous mankind
Form
is.
yourselves into lines for soma distribution. Thank you.
Oh, brave new world.
That's it. Brave New
In line,
World.
everybody.
And
That's it, everyone. In line.
end
This
credits.
soma is bad. It's poison. It hurts you.
Please don't do that,
take
Mr.
any.
Savage.
Going cold turkey.
Soma makes you into slaves. It robs you of everything magical and special within you.
Mr. Savage, please don't do that.
You can never be free until you're free of Soma.
Yep.
Everyone be calm. There is an ample
Get off your
supply of
Ritalin.
soma in
Get off your-
everyone.
I'm not going to let you take any more. Now listen to me. Listen to me. Don't you want to feel alive? Don't you want to feel free? Don't you want to feel the blood coursing in your veins?
Mr. Savage, don't do that.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yep.
This is poison!
Mr. Savage.
He's going full on us.
Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage, they need their soma.
No, they don't.
They need their medication, man.
Emergency. Heliofusion plant number 3. Send solidarity forces immediately.
Solidarity. Gotta kill cold turkey on that shit.
Stop! Oh, please. I can feel I can be alive!
Zombies.
Parkwood Place, number 317. Occupant John Savage. Present location. Activity respond.
Spaghetti is
Savage.
back.
Well, I'm finding out now.
Soma Distribution Center Heliothrax Energy Plant. Activity inciting riot.
Oh my Lord, they're gonna think that this is my fault. Where are you going?
To help John?
Take your medication. The Spurgs want their fucking medication.
They're so hopelessly conditioned, they can't be anything else.
Where's John? There. He's out of control. He's totally out of control. Let's get out of here. No. Let's help him.
That's right, Spaghetti. Bye.
There, sir. Stop them. It's all right now. We'll take care of everything. Ready to spray them with Soma vapor. Cover them with anesthetic hypobeam. Bring up the simple Muzak speaker.
Trails on them.
Ready to synthocast? Voice of reason tape?
No. I think the voice of good feeling. Anti-riot speech number 2. Medium strength.
Yes, sir.
Same fucking people, man.
I'm just surprised they are prepared for this.
My friend,
I think you need something like a
please.
demolition man where they don't know what they're doing.
My dearest friend, why aren't you all being happy and good together? Happy and good. At peace. At peace.
Imagine this shit at Berkeley, man. That'd be fucking weird.
Please.
That's something they'd probably fucking do given the fucking,
I do want you to be
political
happy.
correctness.
Be happy. Be happy. Be happy.
Communists and the fucking
Be
Antifa
happy.
all being
Be
nice
happy.
guys.
Now goodbye, my dearest, dearest friends. May the good Lord keep you and watch over you. Now
Destroy Soma. Destroy Soma.
may the good Lord
Apparently, the
And
Soma
what-
vapor did not completely restore them to emotional stability.
Destroy Soma. Destroy Soma. Destroy Soma. Farewell.
Oh.
They're all
We don't need your Soma. We're free, right?
He's the one who caused it. The savage.
Nevertheless, I'm afraid we'll have to take them all in. Will the 3 of you come along quietly, or must we anesthetize? We'll come. Thank you.
Oh, me? Oh, why me? I'm not involved in this. This is a mistake.
I'm sorry, Mr. Marks, but orders have been issued directly from the Western Controller's office by his forwardship Mustafa Mond. All 3 of you to be taken in immediately.
You're gonna learn to teach you to sort yourself out, folks.
They're here.
Yes, they're waiting for you.
It's a shame. Especially the savage. After all, he was anthropologically unique.
Why are they taking so long? What are they going to do? If I could just explain to someone, this isn't my fault. What are you doing?
I'm making some notes on a new jingle about feeling.
Feeling what?
I don't know, something, anything, just feeling.
That's ridiculous. And it's certainly not going to be any help with the trouble we're in here.
I don't care about that.
Well, I do. What about me?
What rhymes with hurt? Quirt, dirt, a spurt, that's it. Not the deepest wounds could hurt, though from them life's blood did spurt.
Oh boy.
You'll tell them for me, won't you, John? What? That this isn't my fault? I'll tell them what you... Look at this, Bernard. It's an antique. They call it a book.
It's an
No.
antique.
It's Shakespeare. Looks like a book to me.
They all have digital books or audio books.
Mm-hmm.
Your fortune. I can explain everything. It was a mistake. We didn't mean it.
I did. I meant to do just what I did, and I'm not sorry.
I want your fortune to know that I'm sorry. I'm deeply, deeply sorry for everything that I've done wrong, whatever it is.
Yes, Mr. Marks. And what about you, Mr. Savage? Any apologies from you?
No.
Apparently, you don't like our civilization at all, do you?
No.
No.
Then you find nothing in our way of life to your liking. Nothing at all?
The music. That sometimes is pleasant.
Oh, yes. If music be the food of love. Enough of that.
You've read Shakespeare?
Oh, yes. And others. Music hath charms to soothe the savage beast. You see, Mr. Savage, my special conditioning has allowed for all this, even though it's prohibited to everyone else. For those of us who must ultimately guide others to do what is right, it is imperative to understand the lure of what is wrong. And of course, it is a lure, isn't it?
Yes. No. I hated every moment of it.
Well, unfortunately, whatever the motivations, your actions have caused problems, definite problems. But then there's a quite simple way of removing them.
What is that?
By removing both of you, of course.
No.
Memory hole them.
You will have to be removed to some other place so that the possibility of the contamination spreading will be removed with you.
Oh, the gun.
You mean you're gonna send us
thoughts
away to some free island like Iceland? I don't deserve a fate like that, your fortune.
No, Mr. Marks, nothing like that. You and Mr. Watson will be allowed to choose among any of the free islands to live on. Tahiti, Jamaica, Hawaii. And of course, you will be allowed absolute and complete freedom to do anything you want. Read anything you want. Even think anything you want.
That's wonderful. No, it's perfect. That's all I want, to be free to write anything I want, and not just jingles, but something more, something different. But not somewhere like Tahiti. No, that would be too easy, too pleasant, too much like the life here. Isn't there somewhere else that's harsher, colder, less perfect?
Oh, yes. There's a free island to meet every dissonant taste. Lapland, Greenland, Antarctica, the Falklands. Of course, we don't have many calls for those. And life on them can be a bit bleak and lonely.
Wonderful. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want.
You want
something
yes,
cold and harsh and bleak. Then I know I'll be able to write something different. I'm ready to go. The sooner the better.
Well, fine. You can arrange everything with the Extended Vacation Bureau. Just tell my assistant, Marlena Krups.
Thank you, your fortune. Thank you.
Freaking Star Trek shit.
John.
I wonder if this would be like Star Trek.
Oh.
E.T. phone home.
But we'll talk before I go.
May I read your poetry?
Yes. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yep. And this all starts with the speech regulation.
Have you gone insane? I can't go somewhere like Lapland or Antarctica.
All right. Later.
He even looks like
No, of course not, Mr. Marks. I think you'd much prefer somewhere like Tahiti.
Tahiti?
Yes. A pleasant climate, no work, charmingly pneumatic females. Yes. As many or as few as you desire, but study the brochures, Mr. Marks. I'm sure you'll find the right thing just for you.
He's going to relapse entirely into society. Won't hear
John,
from him ever again.
I'm off to Tahiti, and I just want to say that I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I hope you find what you want.
Tahiti.
Tahiti. Isn't that like the place where like they have like the
Charmingly pneumatic females. You can do anything you want. Read anything you want. Think anything you want.
I think they're killing them with kindness. To be honest.
That's gonna work. You won't cause any trouble now.
Yeah, you're gonna love your servitude.
Yes, what about you, Mr. Savage? You pose a much more difficult problem. Unfortunately, your dissidence is so ingrained, so much a part of you, that it might even be socially dangerous to send you to the free islands. And of course, it would be impossible now to send you back to the primitive reservation after your exposure to civilization. And on the other hand, you have made it quite clear that you can't be allowed to openly wander about as part of our society.
I don't want to be part of your society. I want to be alone. I think it best to find some isolated place where I can be completely and totally by myself.
And not get
Yes,
swatted.
that may just be the answer.
Thank you.
And for your sake, I hope it is. Yes, we'll try it for a while, Mr. Savage. I'll make all the arrangements for you.
Oh fuck, they're doing one Benjamin.
But of course, he's still a celebrity, no matter where he goes.
Guys, we never went to the moon. Oh my god.
I'm sorry. No one can look up at Mr. Savage today.
YouTube, go away.
There she is.
Savage, I know. No visitors today. You'll have to leave with the others. Move along.
The thought who
You'll have to
reads.
leave with
There she is.
Move along. Move along, please.
She's trying to process it.
Of course, the Savage. What the fuck is he doing here? Fucking actress chap. What the fuck? I don't know.
Good morning, Mr. Savage.
What the
I
fuck?
took advantage of my position to let myself in. I hope you don't mind.
No. If you'd like to join me, I think I have enough for two.
Enough of what, exactly?
Well, it's going to be a stew. Potatoes, carrots, onions, fresh fish heads.
No, thank you. I had some imitation scrambled cholesterol before I left. But you go right ahead. Interesting. You've grown your own food, built furniture, woven cloth for yourself. So now you're Robinson Crusoe, and this is your very own Walden.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was referring to some other books that you perhaps haven't read. But then I'm sure the same ideas could be found in Shakespeare.
I'm feeling this guy is evil.
Someone cast on an island who
like
builds a
neutral
dwelling for
evil,
himself.
or like lawful evil.
Be not afraid. The isle is full of noises, sounds, and sweet airs that give delight and hurt not.
Ah, yes. The native Caliban from your Mr. Shakespeare's The Tempest. And is that what you are now, Mr. Savage? Not afraid, at peace with yourself? And if so, why do you have this? To drive evil spirits out of your body, I suppose.
I don't believe in evil spirits anymore. I'm not even sure I believe in the good ones. I wish I could, but I can't.
So we've taken that away from you, too. I'm sorry. But then if you don't believe in evil spirits anymore, why do you whip yourself?
I still believe in my spirit and the desires within me which are evil.
But my dear Mr. Savage, with a violence passion surrogate treatment, you could achieve the same end, but without any of the unpleasantness and inconvenience. No need for hair shirts and whips. Just the proper button to push and in complete comfort.
I don't want comfort.
Then what do you want? Unpleasantness?
Fucking homo,
suffering,
shit.
pain?
Yes, I want all of that. And all of the things you've done away with. I want danger, I want poetry, I want goodness, I want sin, I want freedom.
Put more directly, what you are really saying is that you claim the right to be unhappy.
All right, then.
Ah, there it is.
I claim the right to be unhappy.
But that also means the right to be sick, to be crippled, to be insane, the right to grow old and ugly and wrinkled,
Yep.
the right to protect yourself from violence, the right to kill or be killed, the right to have too little to eat.
And the right to hope, to love.
Yes, even the right to fall in love, and then be spurned, betrayed, left racked with pain and jealousy. Is all of that really what you want, Mr. Savage?
That's exactly what I want. I claim all of it.
Who would want in this day and age? If the option was between Soma and life, what would you take?
Life. I've taken the other.
So boring.
Right. Now there's the angle I want, right through there. Now remember, I want the Feely camera following him at all times. Now, DB? No. Wait till the Savage comes outside. I'll tell you where. I'm sorry, visitors aren't allowed here any longer. Who's in charge here? I am, officer. The name is Darwin Bonaparte, and I happen to be a Feely film director. And this is a Darwin Bonaparte Feely film conceived, produced, and of course, authored by Darwin
act.
Who gave you permission to do this?
Smug ass.
The Western World Controller, His Lordship Mustafa Mon. Oh, that's different. I'm afraid you're in the way there. If you don't mind, I don't like distractions when I'm creating. There he is! Cameras? Ready when you are, DB.
Little spurgs. Everyone's a spurg in this. Everyone's a spurg, a thought, or a fucking...
You see how I've caught the artistic essence of the savage, your fortune? A lone outcast surrounded by the uncivilized forces of nature.
Yes, I do see. It's quite beautiful. Alluring, in fact.
But I assume you wouldn't want it to be too...
Too persuasive.
Right. Exactly what I thought, too. Of course, this is just a rough cut. Naturally, I plan to get rid of all the alluring parts. You'll see, once it's edited, speeding up, slowing down, changing words. The savage will be a charming comic figure.
Charming. I thought you meant to say something else.
Pathetic. Primitive?
This guy's like Indian Spock. It's like he's from Bollywood or something.
Ridiculous, yes. That's exactly the word I was looking for. Yes. When I finish, the savage will be completely ridiculous.
The Sense You Feely Corporation presents a new Feely film by Darwin Bonaparte. A farcical comedy produced, conceived, and auteured by Darwin Bonaparte. Simple Simon Savage.
Guys, we never went to the moon. Ninja Kuru did everything. It literally is that, isn't it?
Yeah. And she's like, wait a minute, this isn't right. Don't laugh at him.
Can you like super cut in some like skill and mention? Oh wow.
Why are you laughing at him? That isn't the way he is. He isn't like that. Stop it!
He still wants to see him though.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need some more guards. They're all bottled on their holiday ration of amphetamine.
If the savage doesn't come out soon, it could turn into a riot.
You'd better send for stoma gas. We may need it. Yes, sir.
Everyone's gonna gas each other.
No, please.
Uh-oh.
Please, no.
Now I know why Owen Benjamin lives alone in the woods. So I have to deal with all these gammas and shit.
What's that for?
They just want to have fun.
Come on. Oh, getting the whip ready.
You're gonna kick some whoop ass. Get away from me, gamma male.
Oh yeah, in the book, they gather to watch him mutilate himself.
Come away, fairies.
Oh no. Celebrity charge.
This is my home! You get away!
Ooh.
I understand. I know what you meant. I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
Thine own love my heart proclaims. Do you understand, John?
Look at that beard. It's in the latest fashion.
They don't have beards or hair or anything.
That's that. Look at all the soy boys crawling to the man.
Bring up the stoma gas.
gases each other.
Alright. Oh no, so... Oh,
Almost
everyone's drugged out.
Yeah, I've been there, man. It's pretty...
Whoever you're looking for, sir, we must already have them.
I'm trying to.
Perhaps so. She's over at the collection station.
No, she's here. She's waiting for me.
Aww. That's a shame.
Is she dead?
I think she's blitzed.
Breathe. After they breathe, Lenina. Then no more shall I. Eyes. Look your last. Heart. Take your last embrace. And lips. Are you the doors of breath? Seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death.
Hopeless poet.
Yes, indeed.
Here's to my love.
You can never be happy.
Yep. And this is my prediction for 2020 with Owen Benjamin. I think, didn't we say like they were going to lead each other or something?
That was a prediction.
Any termination casualty, Sergeant? No, sir. But there was one case of a complete derangement. A beta, female, Lenina Disney. And when we revived her, she began talking very strangely.
We couldn't make out all the words, except for some very vulgar ones.
Yes?
Yes.
Love?
Love?
Marriage?
And some even filthier than that. She kept pleading to be left here. Of course, we re-somatized her immediately.
We drugged her.
See that she's taken to the nearest moral reconditioning center. Obviously a case of acute sexomania. But a few days of synthotherapy and she'll be quite normal and happy again.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Oh, the one good thing about all these apocalyptic futures is that they require a lot of maintenance and a lot of overhead.
Mr. Savage?
Yep. Well, that's what... Let's see.
Mr. Savage?
So Savage. It's pronounced Savage.
Oh, no.
Well, at least he could... that sucks.
Is it finished?
Yes, all records of the experiment have been computer shredded and completely electro-erased.
Of course, he posed great problems. People wondering how he could do without Soma. Why he lived alone. How, why, But still I wonder. Was there another way, Mawina?
For the Savage? What?
I don't know.
Well, you tried to civilize him. To teach him.
Yes, like Caliban. The plague take you, Prospero, for teaching me.
Caliban?
A different savage that a magician, an ancient kind of controller named Prospero tried to civilize. Just a story.
I don't understand.
No, but John did.
Will there be anything more, your lordship?
No, nothing more at all.
One of the downsides of being in one of the elites, knowing how what man was, what could be.
The cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack. And we are such as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep.
think that's.
That's the
And
brave new world we have to look forward to, my friends.
yeah, everyone's on to compare and contrast now, I guess. Everyone's on drugs now. Everyone's fucking each other. Being a gamma male is seen as bad, and everyone calls each other by alpha, beta, gamma, and they call each other by game terms. So I mean, we're pretty much there at this point in time. We have a crazy savage in the name Owen Benjamin. We have Tay Spaghetti trying to befriend the savage to try to gain brownie points so he can be part of the elite. Yeah, that's the reason Fox does what he does.
No.
He wants to be part of the intellectual dark web, but at least that's the speculation behind it. We don't actually know. And at the same fucking time, you know, nothing gets. It's the same thing. It's just like very meta. Like it's designed to be meta. It's stripped down of every of everything, really.
And as you said before, Aldous Huxley really did. This wasn't more of a warning for him as it was an instruction manual for him.
Yeah, it was, because Huxley, if we look at books like I don't know if I could pull it up for you. Like I wanted to get this gentleman on. It was a gentleman by the name of Jan Irving. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bit of a conspiracy. No, Jan Irving. Beckloff's not going to like this guy because he is the Logos guy. The reason I wanted him on my show specifically is because he was the first person to give DMT to Owen Benjamin. Not Owen Benjamin. Joe Rogan, I believe. On Joe Rogan's podcast, he was a big proponent of psychedelics. He was a big proponent of the use of like marijuana legalization, and then eventually at some point in time, after he received the trivia method, he had a crisis of conscience, if you will, from what he said. He went from being pro-drug, legalization of marijuana, pro-legalization of psychedelics and what have you. He was even a vegan at one point. And then he had a total flip. He had a total flip of his whole ideology. And, some people have said, he's become a Mormon. I don't know if he's a Mormon or not. I have to ask him personally. But that's the rumor around the campfire. And essentially what he has come to the conclusion is that the psychedelic 60s, the counterculture was part of MK Ultra. The whole MK Ultra, the psychedelics, the pushing of, anti-navalism, the pushing of feminism and all this stuff. A lot of this was by design. It was not by just, it wasn't organic. And then you look at people like Jim Morrison, right? Jim Morrison of the Doors. You know what his father was, right?
What was his father?
Jim Morrison's father was an individual by the name of I think it was Admiral Morrison. If you look up Admiral Morrison, he was the guy with his father. Jim Morrison's father was an admiral.
Really?
And he was part of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. From what I understand, I could be wrong about that, but I know he was an admiral, which I thought was very interesting. But at the same time, we see people like if you notice people like Aldous Huxley. Huxley was a Fabian socialist. Mm-hmm. You know what a Fabian socialist is, right?
Basically, what Democrats are for socialism: slow, incremental degrees.
Exactly. He was a Fabian socialist. He was part of the Macy conferences. He was part of many of these, what we would call in today's terms, globalist planning. And even then, if we look at the whole history of his family, you have Thomas Huxley, who was basically Darwin's bulldog, who pushed for the notion of the notion of, I believe it was Darwinistic theory of evolution, which is, if you look at The Origin of Species, the original title of it was The Origin of Species for the Preservation of the Favored Races in Their Struggle to Survive. Then you see people like Julian Huxley, who was an open eugenicist. And one of the things that Huxley, Aldous that is, often talked about was using chemicals to control people. It's a hell of a lot easier to control people via chemical controls, as opposed to something along the lines of drugs when it comes to or the guns and what have you. If everyone's voluntarily, getting blitzed out of their mind, getting drunk, having keg parties, they become dependent. I mean, this is one of the things people oftentimes see. I mean, people have become psychologically dependent on weed. I have struggled with this. I've gone through it. I still use it, but I'm not dependent on it. If I can go without it, I can go without it. I can push through it. But things like drugs such as what is it? Alcohol. You get withdrawals. Yeah, there you go. There it is, Luke. The origin of species by means of the natural selection or the preservation of the favored races in the struggle to survive by Charles Darwin. Now, I've talked about the notion of using some of these SJWs and showing them this stuff and showing them all this crap. Because let's be frank, the SJWs would have a field day with that preservation for the favored races. Darwin was basically a race realist prior to any of this other shit. He was. And I guarantee you, I can make the whole fucking if I show them enough of this stuff, if I show those SJWs, we will have a fucking, we'll burn the whole fucking state to the ground.
Reaction.
Yeah, reaction. But yeah. So, we have
how about that? If we show them this, what if they become more anti-scientific and say that even evolution is a social construct? Or do they do that now?
This is another thing that was pushed in the whole MK Ultra thing, was the idea of the archaic revival. I don't know enough about the archaic revival to say anything, but people like Terrence McKenna. Terrence McKenna, how he talks like this, like he's an evil Mr. Rogers, and he talks about the Clockwork Elves and how you could see things when you take psychedelic euphoria and how the mushrooms recruited him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently McKenna was an agent of the CIA. He was an agent at the time, and but I'm gonna try to get Jan on. I'm gonna send an email tonight saying, "Would you like to be on my on and explain in your own words what the whole MK Ultra thing was?" Because I honestly, people are like, "Why do you keep trying to get the Logos guy on? Why do you keep trying to get him on?" Because he has a very important part in this whole culture war. He's very important, and he's a very valuable asset in this culture war against the social justice warriors, against the oligarchs, against the elite. He is somebody who I would say is one of the few, like you could probably mess with him if you wanted to. Like there's a lot of things that are out there that people that he is entertained, arguments he's entertained. It doesn't mean that he's right or wrong. It just means that it can be debunked, and that's one of the things I like about a lot of Jan's work is that it can be debunked. A lot of the stuff can be debunked. It's not something that's so broad out there like, Jews did 9/11. Well, what do you mean by Jews? Jews, Israelis. Okay, well, what Israelis? Give me an example. Well, the 12 dancing Israelis. You could show through dialectic and through the thought process of how someone gets to that point. That's something that a lot of conspiracy theorists don't do. They don't show you how they've come to the conclusion that they've come to. They don't show you through, here's this data point, here's this data point, here's that data point. This is the reason I like Jan. And I've talked about why I think he's a good, let's just say this. When I confronted Jordan B. Peterson, and there's a reason why I've called out Mustafa Aman, this character, as Jordan B. Peterson, because he very much fills the same role. Like he's like an evil version of Jordan Peterson. In the sense that you could see, can you like Luke? Can you see Jordan in that role of the world controller? Like he's sort of like a father figure to a lot of these people. Which again, oftentimes I've said to people, if you haven't saved yourself. Jordan Peterson hasn't saved you. You've saved yourself. But a lot of people give credit. This is the reason why when I first encountered Jordan B. Peterson, and I gave him the book Jordanetics by Vox Day, which again I would recommend you read, regardless of what you think of Vox Day. Vox Day, he's having a little bit of a spurg out as of late. He wants to go after the troll army, so this might very well be taken down, not because of our own personal, using copyright material from the BBC, which again I have not yet been hit by copyright for whatever reason it might be. Here's hoping.
Yeah, thank you for contributing to the censorship of the world, Vox. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm very upset, but I've heard some arguments saying that, you know, Vox was being read off of a teleprompter. I'll have to take a look into that. I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but at the same time, when I gave all that, the book, Jordanetics, to Jordan Peterson, I also gave him a copy of a article written by Jan Irving from his site. It's called Spies in Academic Clothing. Hold on one second. Yeah. Clothing. There we go. Spies in Academic Clothing. And I'll send you a link. Give me a second. This is from Logos Media. And yeah, Beckloff is probably going to get a little bit upset about this whole thing, but I think that he's a valuable asset because when I first encountered Jan's work, it was through another conspiracy site called the Higher Side Chat, which is basically a bunch of stoners talking about conspiracy stuff. In essence, what the Spies in Academic Clothing article, I printed this whole thing out and I gave it to Peterson. And what it is spies. It says Spies in Academic Clothing: the untold history of MK Ultra and the counterculture, and how the intelligence community misleads the 99%. Spies in Academic Clothing: the untold history of MK Ultra by Jan Irving. This was dated on May 13th, 2015. Articles in this series include R. Gordon Wasson, The Man, the Myth, the Legend, the Man, the Legend, the Myth, the beginning of the new history of magic mushrooms, ethnomycology, and the psychedelic revolution. Darwin, Huxley, and the Esalen Institutes launched the 2012 psychedelic revolutions and began one of the largest mind control operations in history. Yeah, a lot of the stuff they use the term mind control. I prefer the term mindset control. Because what they're not really physically, like when we think of mind control, we think of like, I have control over Luke. Luke is going to walk into a he's going to continuously walking. If he runs into a wall, he'll keep bumping into the wall because I didn't give him any instructions or what have you. Mindset control is more of, you think like this. You see the world through the lens of, let's say, a Marxist lens or through the feminist lens. That to me is more what mindset control is. I'd have to talk to Jan and see if that's exactly what he means or not. Again, whenever we use like a term like mind control or magic, we have to define our terminology. So I'd have to ask him what his definition is and why he uses that terminology. But again, Jan was an ethnomycologist. He has a degree in this, I believe. He has a degree and a lot of this stuff. He is somebody who I would say, if you ever needed to look into like some conspiratorial crap, he would be the guy to go to. Now, again, some of the stuff I've heard, there's been certain criticisms. People have said he's a Mormon. I don't know if he is or not. I don't know what's on his heart. I'd have to look at the evidence or what have you. But, yeah, that's pretty much that.
Man sent to kill or a slave? A man chooses. A slave obeys.
Yeah, that's what we think of mind control, right? We think of somebody giving you a command and you automatically move like this. This is from Bioshock, by the way.
Powerful phrase. Familiar phrase.
Wind Piper. You're saying you don't see what people see in Peterson. Peterson, his words are so vague that they could apply to anybody. One of the, like, if I could, let me see if I could find The Madness of Jordan B. Peterson. It'll be Box Day's article about Peterson. Can you pull that up for The Madness of Jordan B. Peterson?
Would you kindly stand? Would you kindly?
Because I think it's more of a term of mindset control. Because if you say mindset control, it makes more sense to me, at least. It sounds like the websites are using real-time data manipulation to determine what ads you see. That is something that they do. Keep in mind, that the little piece of data, there are certain things that we can know about you based on what you like.
We are live with a man who I think at this point needs no introduction.
The most influential public intellectual in the Western world.
One of the world's most controversial thinkers.
Hi.
Jordan Peterson.
Professor Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson.
Peterson gained national notoriety when he spoke out about a federal bill on gender expression.
I am not going to be a mouthpiece for language that I detest, and that's that. His new self-help book, 12 Rules for Life, is already a bestseller. Hundreds of thousands subscribe to his online lectures. His speeches regularly attract protests. And his new speaking tour is selling out.
Feels like a movement, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Dr. Peterson has changed my life. He has reminded me that I should first and foremost clean my room.
Which is sophistry.
Well, that's quite a statement.
Can you like lower it a bit as it continues? Cleaning your room. The whole notion of cleaning your room is such a vague statement. He's not saying anything. Like, my room is perfectly clean right now. I could get around. I'm just in a small room. I'm in a studio apartment, sue me, right? But certain notions that are part of this whole, the 12 rule path, to quote Vox Day. Again, they're so vague that they could apply to anything. And there is no, he never says what he means. And if he says what he means, it's such a vague, he can't elaborate. That's how you beat Peterson. You get him to elaborate on what he's saying. You get him to paint the patchwork quilt. Instead of just giving you a patchwork quilt of stimuli, which is more akin to what we would call chaos magic, where you throw a bunch of stuff, like, it's basically the equivalent of, the magnetic poetry, like you throw darts on the wall and it has like a bunch of words, and then you make a poem out of it. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Magnet poetry, yeah. That's sort of what Jordan B. Peterson does. He uses a bunch of buzzwords and terminology, hierarchy, Solzhenitsyn, and he knows how many times he goes and references people. Okay, he references people constantly. He references people like Solzhenitsyn, Noam Chomsky. He references Nietzsche, and half the time people have called him on and said, "Hey, you're wrong about this. Clean your dick cheese." Tom Bombadil says, the guy is a manipulator. Keep playing the clip, but there's a part that Vox really got here.
I think the whole group identity thing is seriously pathological.
Just get it straight. You're saying that we should organize our societies.
Another buzzword.
The way that you deal with this is to put yourself together.
We don't need to be taught how to wipe our ass by Jordan Peterson.
What good is a clean room in Rome going to do when Alaric the Goth is sacking your city?
The group identity emerge only when necessary. And
they're trying to come up with a way to keep the right on the reservation. And that's what Jordan Peterson is doing in the world of philosophy, which I call Jordanetics, is ultimately anti-Christian, it's poisonous, and it's riddled from start to finish with mental illness. This guy is the crazy Christ. I mean, he has a Messiah complex. He actually wrote to his father and said,
I think I've discovered something that no one else has any idea about.
It's clear that we're not dealing with somebody who is mentally well.
When it was literally driving me crazy, often dreaming extremely violent dreams. What shall I do with my newfound hand of light? I waited for a reply. And almost immediately, an answer revealed itself.
Write down the words you want inscribed on your soul.
I'm a media original.
The madness of Jordan Peterson. Although I had heard about a Canadian academic who became an unexpected hero to American conservatives through his YouTube videos and a best-selling self-help book, I did not pay Jordan Peterson any notice until it was brought to my attention that he was repeating exaggerated and long disproven claims about the intelligence of a minority group.
The average Ashkenazi IQ is somewhere between 110 and 115, which is about one standard deviation above the population average.
While anyone can be misled by unreliable sources, what made me suspicious of his intellectual integrity
I love the fact that Vox Day, this was the inciting incident. This was what made Tay Spaghetti go on his hero's journey to beat the big bad Jordan Peterson. This right here. It wasn't the fact that the guy was basically talking out of his ass half the time like Ace Ventura. The guy made one misquote about the fucking Jews, the Ashkenazi Jew IQ, which again, I don't really care because again, IQ doesn't mean shit, especially if you don't act upon it. And we all know the archetypical, I'm scared. I don't know what my wife will do. I mean, guys, I got to get my inhaler. It's so hard. You know, just because you have a high IQ doesn't mean you're going to be successful. Just because you believe you're awesome doesn't mean you're going to be successful either. There is a notion of the Dunning-Kruger effect for a reason. All right. But yeah, keep playing it.
The way that he immediately doubled down and resorted to name-calling and disingenuous rhetoric when called out for his error by his better-informed readers. The way in which I was energetically denounced by his fans and accused of everything from jealousy to mental retardation for the heinous crime of publicly correcting him only made me more dubious about the man. It didn't take very long to...
What did he correct exactly?
Well, the whole reason why Tay Spaghetti got involved in the whole Jordan B. Peterson thing was because Peterson made one quote, just one, about how the Ashkenazi Jews are smarter. They're smarter than the average bear.
Well, higher IQ, right?
Higher IQ, exactly. Well, again, this is where it gets interesting. People want to mix intelligence with IQ, and it just simply isn't the case. You could be the smartest motherfucker out there, but if you don't act upon it, if you don't have the resources to act upon it, and if you don't have the wherewithal to pursue it, you're probably never going to get anywhere, right? So that was the inciting incident. That was the thing that made Spaghetti lose his meatballs. Playing?
To discover that the man was something very, very different than the public figure whom conservatives were praising so highly.
What do you think of the things that people, and I'm especially thinking of your opponents, get wrong about you?
Their basic proposition is that, first of all, that I'm a right-winger of some sort. And
he's
not the case.
The left-winger.
He never was. No one's ever admitted that. No one's ever pretended he was.
He's never admitted. Yeah. Again, this is the reason why. Again, I think it's simply because there is some truth that a lot of the right are becoming centrist simply because of Jordan B. Peterson. But again, if you cut through the bullshit, if you listen to what Peterson says, keep playing it.
Virtually nothing that is believed to be true about Jordan Peterson is actually true. Jordan Peterson is not a Christian. Jordan Peterson is not a conservative. Jordan Peterson is not a defender of Western civilization or Western culture. Jordan Peterson is not post-ideological. Jordan Peterson is not a hero. Jordan Peterson is not a right-winger of any sort. Jordan Peterson is not a prophet. Jordan Peterson's thoughts are not too advanced for ordinary people to follow. And most importantly, most of the time, Jordan Peterson simply does not know what he's talking about.
The hell do I know?
Nirmal Das, a Canadian author and PhD who specializes in translating ancient languages, observes that Jordan Peterson is poorly educated and lacks a basic knowledge of religion, history, theology, philosophy, science, and logic. He writes, he misconstrues the Logos and blasphemes his way through the Old Testament and the Gospels.
Yeah.
As for history,
okay.
just one example suffices.
Logos, yeah. At this point, we need to have a shot counter for every time someone says the fucking word Logos.
There's no reason to have it, honestly. It's a stupid distraction from an actual topic. People are using the term logos. It's supposed to be in Christ, but they're saying it's like the cosmic order of civilization. It's just stupid. We got to toss it out.
Exactly, and because it creates what we call a semantic discord, where we could be talking about Jesus and they could be talking about the natural law in the scientific sense, where what goes up must come down, gravity, things like that. Again, I have nothing against that concept of logos. I just don't like the fact that the sons of bitches are using it to try to say that now we can have access to the Dharma as well as as all these freaking Muslim and Hindu and all these other things because it's all the logos, man. It's bullshit. But yeah, keep going.
No, Jesus is not a version of the Egyptian god Osiris. This nonsense comes from Gerald Massey, a 19th century crackpot who faked evidence to make such claims.
Keep talking, bucko. Pretty soon I'm going to have you right where I want you.
This comprehensive charge of general ignorance may sound difficult to believe.
And I've always felt like a complete idiot.
So there now. I've got my waka.
But remember, Jordan Peterson admitted that he had never even read through the entire Bible before he began delivering his series of lectures on it.
Jesus, what the hell did I do?
The readily observable fact is that very few Jordan Peterson fans have ever taken any trouble to actually read what he has written. Unlike most of his fans, I've read the 12 Rules, Maps of Meaning, and the United Nations Secretary General's high-level panel on global sustainability, resilient people, resilient planet, a future worth choosing. And I can attest that the charge of comprehensive ignorance is an accurate one. For example,
one thing you must also know, and he has admitted this multiple times, Jordan Peterson has stated one of the top on his reading list, the recommended reading list, is Brave New World. Now, what is interesting about this is that Jordan Peterson, he took the place that Timothy Leary took at Harvard. He was in the same department working on Timothy Leary's stuff. So one of the things I will say right now for anybody who's listening, don't take psychedelics. Stay away from it. We saw that little spurg out in I guess you could say the Euro tantrum that was going on in Brave New World. Stay the fuck away from psychedelics. That's an order. Anyhow, keep playing.
Throughout the entire 564 pages of Maps of Meaning, there are precisely 0 direct references to such minor intellectual figures as Aristotle, Socrates, Epictetus, Augustine, Marcus Aurelius, and Thomas Aquinas. By way of example, no man even remotely familiar with the Greek and Roman skeptics could possibly have produced such an incredibly ignorant statement as this.
Prior to the time of Descartes, Bacon, and Newton, man lived in an animated spiritual world, saturated with meaning, imbued with moral purpose. But now we think empirically, and the spirits that once inhabited the universe have vanished.
The clue is right there in the most famous skeptic's name, Sextus Empiricus.
I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
Jordan Peterson's customary approach to a subject is to take simple, straightforward concepts and redefine them in order to transform their core meanings to suit whatever he is saying at the moment. Even worse, he assigns multiple meanings and contradictory definitions to those concepts, making it literally impossible to know with any degree of confidence what he's actually saying. He does this in order to allow the listener to assign his own meaning to Peterson's words. It's a psychological technique that can be described as preemptive mirroring, as Peterson's rambling incoherence permits the listener to hear what he is seeking to hear and feel that his preconceived views are substantiated by the authority of Peterson's presumed wisdom. Peterson is purposefully saying nothing.
I sent you a link. He's purposely, yeah. And this is what we call sophistry. It's not called wizardry, Owen. It's not called preemptive mirroring. It's called sophistry. And if you understand what sophistry is, and I'm going to send you the link to the sophistry, the use of fallacious arguments, especially in the intention of deceiving, a fallacious argument. Let's see what else we have here for dictionary.com. A subtle trickery, superficially plausible, but generally fallacious method of reasoning. A false argument, sophism. What is sophism? A specific argument and displaying ingenuity in the reasoning for deceiving someone. A false argument, a fallacy. Keep in mind, the sophists, another example is deception, misconception, sophistry, absurdity. So when he talks about something that's so big, when he starts talking about how you need to rise the hierarchy, you need to get to the top, you need to do you need to clean your room, and he never elaborates on anything he says. And if he elaborates, it doesn't really do much. You know, one of the things people talk about during when people talk about I think it was him and that Marxist Slavoj Žižek, right? Slavoj Žižek told him why, if you maybe your house isn't in disorder because the world is in disorder and you need to act on the world, you know. But again, it really honestly is very dangerous. This is why I say Peterson is easy to debunk once you start asking questions about what he's talking. Like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And then he'll always say, well, you know what I mean by that. No, I don't. I asked you a question. Could you please elaborate? And just keep pushing him, and he will fold. It's not that hard. But yeah, sophistry. Keep playing the clip.
In order to leave a hole of meaning that the listener will dutifully provide and credit to him. This is why different Peterson fans will almost invariably disagree about what he has said. Peterson says, when I lecture, I'm not saying what I believe to be the case, but thinking on my feet, trying to extend and clarify my knowledge while also communicating. To the extent that there's any actual content to Peterson's lectures, they are narcissistic monologues aimed primarily at himself. This is why those who have read Peterson's books tend to have a much lower opinion of him than those who attend his lectures and watch his videos. His technique of preemptive mirroring does not work when one can so easily see the contradictions and incoherencies littering each and every page.
It's sophistry.
If you react poorly to
seriously, you don't need to make a new you don't need to invent a whole new word or a whole new term to describe it. Keep it. If you could go with backwards compatibility with your arguments, please go with backwards compatibility. You don't need to recreate new words. It only confuses things.
Yeah,
I mean, what's up?
There's an acronym called KISS. It says, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Keep it simple. We don't need to, I don't think we need to make it so that Peterson has magical powers or anything like that. He might think he does, but you know, the natural order of things will stop him from using it or doing it, because nobody can shoot fireballs or lasers out of their ass just to fucking, because that's not how science works. That's not how things work. But you can deceive people into following you if they think that you're a good person, and if you talk about good, honest virtues of hard work, follow your heart and your money will follow. Any degree is a good degree. Climb the hierarchy. Sort yourself out. Clean your room, bucko. All this crap that means nothing. It's all a bunch of platitudes with attitude, and that's it. That's all it is. You're not saying anything.
I mean, if you want to apply context to it, you could say you have to clean your room and get your life in order, and giving that context. But of course, it's a question of how much you can construe it.
Well, it's sort of like I've had fights with people who've literally said you need to find your place where you are in the world. I'm like, who the fuck are you to tell me when I'm not in process or I'm not trying to get to where I'm supposed to be? I mean, like, it literally assumes the worst in people, and it assumes the worst. It's like this very narcissistic guru sort of attitude where the only reason you go to the doctor is because you must be sick or you must be feeling better. No, you can go for a checkup. You can go to see what all the hubbub is. You can go to get health information. You don't have to go there specifically because you feel sick. Ray says, I think real magic is mimetic thought transfer. That is true. That is partially what magic is. It's propaganda. There's a reason why, $5 words have convinced smarter people than I. Yeah, words have that ability. There is propaganda. I mean, look up Edward Bernays if you want to see mimetics in full effect. Look up Edward Bernays if you want. We'll do a show on that guy sometime. Keep playing the clip. We're gonna finish it out.
One of Peterson's positions. You have only but to wait a little while, and he will produce another one you will find more to your liking.
Clean up your room.
Peterson's incoherent and self-contradictory philosophy can best be described as Clintonian, as he repeatedly redefines everything from Christianity to God and the very concept of truth itself. Just listen to these absurd, nonsensical definitions he puts forward when asked what he means by God. God is the mode of being you value the most, spirit that is trying to elevate being, that makes everything come together. Truthful speech that rectifies pathological hierarchy. How we imagine.
Well, he is an evolutionary psychologist.
But again,
because he's trying to keep it as broad as definition as possible, which of course means, well, you can't. If you're a Christian, you can't have that kind of broad definition.
Exactly, and this is the reason why people like him who've always worked for the one world government, who've worked for the UN. I mean, fuck, he wrote a paper on the world on the fucking world the UN's Security Council. This guy is a globalist, and he's making globalism nice and easy. He's like he's a propaganda guy.
Well, if he's still, I don't even know he's still making material now, is he? Because ever since his wife's illness kicking in, I wasn't sure if he was actually making new material.
He's making new material, but I mean, he's on a hiatus right now. He's not down for the count, but I think 2020 will be the death of Jordan Peterson. Not literal death, but like the death of the notion of him being actually worth anything.
I gotta figure out how to become popular like him, just so I can have the spotlight and try to see how long I can stay on the media ladder or media radar.
You want to do the same fucking thing? Shit. What do you think I'm doing? I'm going after him, with the best way I can.
Well, he became popular because he attacked one of their sacred cows about the pronoun nonsense.
Well, he did that, but at the same time, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, what exactly did he do? What did he do? Was it just, a bunch of people who interviewed him and then they're like, hey, this guy's pretty cool. He's saying the same thing we're saying. And because he has some sort of academic clout, he was something magical about him, I guess. I don't know. Like, keep playing it. We're going to finish it out soon.
Collectively represent the existence and action consciousness across time. A selection mechanism, which judges which men are worthy. Collectively, these statements can clearly be seen to be pure baffle garb. String them together, and you'll see that they're entirely nonsensical. Truthful speech is...
Yeah, well, they're always context sensitive.
Yeah, truthful speech is a selection mechanism that rectifies pathological hierarchies, which is how we imagine the existence of consensus trying to evaluate being. So to put this, like, do you know what I think it's what hoax is it called? It's a what's it? I'm trying to think. It's a hoax that there was a pseudoscience paper in the 90s. It's called the Sophos hoax, not Sophos hoax. The Sokol, I think it's called. 1 second. Sokol.
The Sokol affair.
Yeah.
What is this
I think
all about?
Sokol affair.
Publicized sting.
Alan Sokol, is a scholarly profession. Publishing sting perpetrated by Alan Sokol, a physics professor in the New York University and University College London. In 1996, Sokol submitted an article to Social Text, an academic journal on postmodern cultural studies.
Yeah, here is the paper. It proposed that quantum gravity is a social and linguistic construct. At the same time, the journal did not practice academic peer review and did not submit the article outside expert review by physicists.
Yeah. So
3 weeks later, after its publication in May 1996, it revealed the article was a hoax.
Yeah, so let's look at this. Truthful speech, that means factual speech, is a selection mechanism, meaning that there's a mechanism by what mechanism that rectifies assumes again, what does rectify mean? Let's actually look it up real quick. We'll break this fucker down. Rectify, to put, to correct, to convert, to direct current. So it is truth factual speech is a selection mechanism that selects pathological hierarchies. Pathological meaning, let's take a look at pathological. Pathological, referring to pathology involving cause or by the nature of physical or mental disease. Compulsive. So he's saying it rectifies compulsive hierarchies, which is how we imagine the existence of consciousness trying to evaluate being. So he's basically saying that factual speech is a selection mechanism for the. Yes, he's basically talking about how factual speech, from what I understand, again, I hate this gobbledygook, hate it, but he's basically saying that this is how we perceive reality. He's assuming that we're pathological, first off, that we don't know what the fuck we're talking about, and factual speaks, verifies the hierarchy's value if the hierarchy is based on truth or based on authority, for example, which is how we imagine the existence of who. I don't imagine the existence of the consciousness trying to evaluate being. I mean, again, it means nothing. This guy is a fucking sophist. Keep playing.
Selection mechanism that rectifies pathological hierarchies, which is how we imagine the existence of consciousness trying to elevate being.
Bucko.
That's nonsense.
I think that's silly. I really do.
And it leads to the obvious question, what makes speech truthful? If Peterson is to be believed, truth is that which serves life in a Darwinian manner.
Like the fundamental axiom that I'm playing with is something that was basically expressed by Nietzsche, and it's a definition of truth. And so I would say, if it doesn't serve life, it's not true.
Or to put it more bluntly and clearly.
Is that true? Yeah, exactly. Because it's like the equivalent of saying, if I lie all the time, am I telling the truth? Keep playing it. Yeah.
The truth, the Darwinian pragmatic truth, to be specific, is anything you believe that happens to increase your odds of survival. This, you will note, is a concept that directly contradicts the concept of truth as the dictionary and pretty much everyone else in the history of the planet has ever understood it.
Okay, that makes sense. Except, I would say that God is dead and human beings are like a cancer on the planet.
Thanks to this perverted redefinition of truth, Peterson even concludes that facts are not necessarily true.
Then I would say that I don't think that facts are necessarily true.
But Peterson doesn't just play philosophically fast and loose when it comes to facts, figures, and definitions. He can't even answer a straightforward yes or no question honestly.
Do you believe that Jesus rose again from the dead? Literally.
I cannot answer that question.
You can't.
And the reason is because. Okay, let me think about it for a minute. See if I can come up with a reason.
Yes or no, Peterson? Yes or no, you fucking sophist? You have, if I had to put a gun to his kid's head and say, you will answer the question within 10 seconds, I'm going to go do the whole Philip Seymour Hoffman Mission Impossible shtick. Answer the question within 10 seconds, or, you could follow the white rabbit or whatever down the little memory hole, whatever the fuck, with your daughter. He wouldn't be able to do it because the guy is a fucking liar. He's a fucking sophist.
Reasonable answer to that. Well, the first answer would be, it depends on what you mean by Jesus.
A historical human being that existed
in a body.
In a body.
In a body. Do you believe that or do you not believe it? It's not,
I play the
I don't
Jeopardy.
know.
Now, come on. Is this really the first time that Peterson has ever considered that question? And yet he did manage to answer a related question a little bit more directly. Do you go to church? No. In my experience, the ministers are too frequently lying. I can't stand to hear them say words they don't believe. But how could a man who doesn't even know what he believes possibly know what others truly believe? How can he know they are lying about Jesus when that would entirely depend upon what they mean by Jesus? And how can a man who claims that facts are not necessarily true possibly claim that anyone else is lying?
How can you know if you're lying if you can't even
Now,
tell what
we've recently seen
lie
Peterson.
is? You know? Okay. Keep playing it.
Placebo. You can toss it in the trash. There's nothing in it.
He is a placebo philosopher, isn't he? Keep playing, yeah. We're going to finish this.
Figures on the left who have been elevated and promoted as an acceptable opposition by the mainstream media. The most notorious example being the New York Times' proclamation of the intellectual dark web. That includes Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, and Sam Harris, among others. And the reason that they've been elevated is because their whole job is to prevent young men from moving towards nationalism and Christianity in their ongoing rejection of the neoliberal world order.
That's what I'm talking to. I'm trying to call them forth as individuals out of the chaos that they're ensconced in.
If you pay attention, you notice that none of these members of the approved...
Implying we're in chaos, implying that you even know what the difference between chaos and order are, implying you have the right to define it. Again, I guarantee you, when we start pushing this guy hard enough, he'll start falling back on, well, I'm a professor. I have a magical piece of paper, you know? Fuck you, doctor of what? You're no more of a doctor than I am a fucking dashing rogue. Go ahead.
Opposition are Christians. And more importantly, everything you see come out of their mouths is anti-nationalist.
A person who is living abroad in Japan could be more of an American than a person who's born in Ohio.
Now, it's not always directly anti-nationalist, and Jordan Peterson is much more clever than Ben Shapiro in this regard.
The distance between the typical citizen and the bureaucracy that runs the entire structure has got so great that it's an element of destabilization.
Well, because he's using words that are truthful. We know the hierarchy exists because hierarchy necessitates itself. We know that, God exists because the word God necessitates itself. The question is, what is our definition of God? Are we talking about, the Greek gods that are more, humanistic? Are we talking more about, the Judeo-Christian notion of God is all-knowing, all-powerful? Like, what do you mean by that? We know, we all have an idea of what's in our head. And what he's doing is he's pushing buttons and making a patchwork quilt of stimuli. And then people saying, oh, that's what you mean. And then he gradually pulls you in and he guides you down the plot railroad, on that particular
in and of itself. And so people revert back to, say, nationalistic identities because it's something that they can relate to.
What Peterson does is to criticize globalist institutions like the European Union and the United Nations because he thinks that they are moving too fast, too far for the public to accept.
Because we're not built for static utopia. We're built for a dynamic situation.
But the reality is, his long-term objectives are almost identical to the long-term goals of George Soros and other globalists. That may sound improbable, but in a recent interview with George Soros, the great financier of Antifa and global society rather improbably insisted that he is non-ideological. Jordan Peterson also claims to be non-ideological, despite his globalism, his employment by the United Nations, and his history as a socialist activist.
By the way, ideology is
George
good.
Soros said that his...
Or it can be good. Again, capitalism is a good ideology. Americanism, liberalism, these are good. There's nothing inherently good or evil about it. They're just ideologies. But the way people have, tried to say, I'm a free thinker, I'm not held down by ideology. Except the fact that you're a free thinker, which has a whole other ball of wax to go with that, But keep. Yep, exactly. Yep. Alrighty, let's continue with this, and we'll do one more.
His main concern was that the left has become too extreme, which happens to be precisely the same concern that was revealed by Peterson in what was billed as a debate on political correctness with Stephen Fry, Michael Dyson, and Michelle Goldberg.
And that's what this debate is about political correctness. It's about the left going too far. And I think it's gone too far in many ways. And I'd like to figure out exactly how and when so the reasonable left could make its ascendance again and we can quit all this nonsense.
Jordan Peterson is trying to fix globalism. He's actively seeking to destroy your nation and your faith because he believes it's necessary in order to save the world. So in conclusion, I'll ask you this. For what shall it profit a man if he shall clean his room and lose his own soul? I'm Vox Day. This is Voxiversity.
Yep.
And Baudrillard was a self-important pseudo-intellectual who had no point to make, had an undying love for hearing himself talk, and was criticized by his peers numerous times for indulging in willful obscurantism, refusing to qualify his claims, not defining his terms, and therefore writing unintelligible books. Hey, is this starting to remind anyone of anything?
Yeah. And yeah, this is the guy we're gonna get on. This is him exposing quote unquote Huxley. This is from we'll just let him play it.
We were talking about earlier them promoting heroin or psychedelics or, you know, whether it's alcohol. You know, it's not just this or just that one or just the other one. They really like to use all of them, you know. The alcohol people who can't control the alcohol, you know, you keep them in control and watching the football games and hoorah, and you get the psychedelic people, you know, to positive think and pillow sit and stay in the communes and, you know, not organize effective dissent, and you get you know, the opium people addicted and wasting away, and the meth heads and everything else. I mean, you know, it's like,
right. So it sounds like Brave New World. I mean, you've got groups that are happy to be gammas, happy to be betas, or whatever.
Well,
and
that's
they take
exactly the
drugs
point,
that all
isn't it?
gammas take.
Isn't that the entire point? I mean, that is the point, is that this is the creation of the Brave New World. I mean, Aldous Huxley was a Fabian socialist. He was an agent. We do know that. We've got confirmation from a top military official that he was an agent. We don't know what position he was in exactly. You know, general wouldn't say, but we do know that he was an agent. We do know that he was very, very likely in charge of all this stuff. So, you know, they've been selling these things. And when you look at all of the drugs now in the water and all of the birth control, and, you know, that was Huxley's dream, really. In fact, let me just read you guys a quote from Aldous Huxley that I found recently. That's just one of my favorites on him, if I can find it here. It's from his book Moksha, and he's writing it, I think, to his sister or somebody like that, and he's like bragging about the tricks that he's doing in this, you know, helping promote this final revolution that they're doing. But he says, and this is singing. The Epsilons are singing, and he says, "No more mammy, no more pappy. Ain't we lucky? Ain't we happy? Everyone's oh so happy. Everybody's happy now. Sex galore, but no more marriages. No more pushing baby carriages. No one has to change a nappy. Ain't we lucky? Ain't we happy? Everybody's happy now. Dope for tea and dope for dinner. Fun all night and love and laughter. No remorse, no morning after. Where's the sin and who's the sinner? Everybody's happy now. Girls pneumatic, girls exotic, girls ecstatic, girls erotic. Hug me, baby. Make it snappy. Everybody's oh so happy. Everybody's happy now. Lots to eat and hours for drinking. Soma cocktails. No more thinking. No more thinking. No more thinking." And so when we realize that Aldous Huxley, you know, this is his agenda, and he's working with Gordon Wasson and Alan Dulles and these guys at the Century Club that was basically a CIA front. We see all of them hanging out there at this club. And then we see Gordon Wasson go out and start arguing that the Amanita was the ancient Rigvedic Soma. Now, Wasson got that idea originally from John G. Bork's 1891 book, The Scatologic Rights of All Nations. That wasn't even originally, you know, Wasson's idea. He saw another author write about it 50 years earlier. Then he steals that idea and creates the field of ethnomycology out of it.
If one reads the book, Brave New World, it looks more like a warning than a goal. Right?
Well, it's actually it's a plan book, but you know, you can't take it just the one book. And this is the whole issue is, you know, Huxley, you know, at his Berkeley talk, he's on TV and stuff like this, and he's warning people that this stuff is going on, but he never tells you that he's actually, you know, if you read his book Moksha, he knows, for instance, October 26, 1956 or something like that, or 1954 in Moksha, it's probably page 52 or 56. In that book, he's talking about Army LSD experiments. Okay, in that book, and it's Andrea Puharich's LSD experiments from Edgewood, Maryland.
The American military were also experimenting with LSD as a potential weapon.
Here is a group of normal soldiers responding correctly to a series of routine drill commands.
After receiving a small dose of LSD, they're confused and undisciplined.
Now we're talking 1954. This is almost 20 years before the MK Ultra program was exposed. Now, how does Huxley have this information? Not only that, but we see Huxley actually suggesting different studies. And in one place in his book, Moksha, he's actually suggesting to them, we need these hypnosis studies. And then if you flip open to, I think, page 7 or so, or maybe it's in the introduction of Acid Dreams from Marty Lee, you see all of these doctors complaining about these ridiculous hypnosis studies that they're being required to do while the person is under drugs, and all the doctors are complaining that it doesn't work. Then we also read further in Moksha, and you can compare it to David Black's book, Acid Dreams. We see Aldous Huxley at one of the Macy conferences. Now, mind you, Macy created MK Ultra. The whole Project MK Ultra came out of the Macy Foundation. So,
Macy conferences for cybernetics. Do you know what cybernetics is, Luke? Mm-hmm. Cybernetics. That is one instance of it. That's one definition. But a common definition that we're talking about when it comes to cybernetics is the word kybernetes, and it's in Greek. So what kybernetes means is the help. So, for example, morality, justice, immaterial concepts such as that. The stoplight, the red light means what? Stop. The green light means what? Yeah. Certain things like that, certain symbols and certain ideas can be used to control people. So when they talk about cybernetics, they're talking about governing people. They're talking about certain ideas that should be promoted, certain ideas that should be used, certain ideas that could be used to govern people. In fact, if you want to take it even further, because the saying, cybernetics means the helmsman. If you look at Diogenes, I believe Diogenes was a philosopher. He was a hobo philosopher, really badass, by the way. Highly recommend people look up Diogenes. When he was captured by pirates, Diogenes stated, when he was asked by the pirates, what is your job? What do you do? He says, I govern men. Now, if you look at the word, again, the Greek word for cybernetics or for helmsman was kybernetes. Kybernetes refers to the helmsman, but also refers to governance. So it was sort of like a weird pun because he's a philosopher, and philosophers are supposed to govern the morality and the ethics of society. So he was basically saying multiple different things at once. He was kind of fucking with the guy. But at the same time, if you really want to know what that, like the extent of cybernetic control and how it is being used, look up Mao Zedong's Sailing the Sea, Depends on the Helmsman. You ever heard that song? Pull it. We'll play that first in a little bit. Keep playing the clip. I'll pull it up for you.
In 1961, we see Aldous Huxley in Moksha writing about how he's just gotten back from San Francisco from this mind control conference that's put on by the Macy conferences. You flip open David Black's book and you read in there and you have total confirmation. Yep, it's the same thing, same place, same date, everything. So Aldous Huxley was a Fabian socialist. Aldous Huxley's brother, Julian Huxley, also headed the British Eugenics Society. Now, Aldous Huxley...
Well, he also was the head of UNESCO, wasn't he?
He was also the head of UNESCO, indeed, which heavily connects into eugenics, this new garbage Common Core education that's going around today and all of this stuff that we've been trying to expose. But this
well, yeah, and I think the issue with this is, from my point of view, some people can't detect vampires properly.
Okay.
And by that I mean is when you see somebody like Huxley talking on TV, I mean, he was on American TV a few times that I've seen anyway.
Sure.
To me, he just oozes evil.
This is finally the problem of what you do about the irrational. I mean, after all, we have built into us neurologically a kind of Jekyll and Hyde. We have the ancient brainstem, which goes back to enormously remote evolutionary past, and we have a relatively modern neopallium or cortex on top of this, which is quite recent. And the one
are you
the other. I mean, it is.
They're wondering if are you talking right now, because they can only hear you speak or me speak. Can you hear? Can you hear him, Wolf?
Oh, test. Here we go.
Let us know. Give us a thumbs up or a 1 if you can hear him.
I was muted. I should be back to normal now.
All right, cool. Play it.
The Jekyll and Hyde are in a sense built into us. And this is the whole natural genetic basis of the conflict in which man has always lived. And we have to recognize this fact, and we have then to work out the best possible ways on every level, physiological, psychological, educational, sociological, to cope with this fact.
Right.
Sure,
I mean,
well,
you can
well, to
just
me, I mean,
you can
to
just
me,
tell that this guy's bad news all around. I mean, when he talks, it's always from the perspective like we're a lab rat. You know what I mean? It's a guy who likes watching.
He's a
snakes
total
eat.
sociopath. He's a sociopath.
Right.
And he assumes false authority. He lives on the ad verecundium fallacy that he is this high almighty intellectual. Meanwhile, he's just this fallacious thinking sociopath who goes around and decides for himself and his elite friends and family and oligarchs and whatnot how the society should be run. And so he's laying all of this stuff out, but he never, when he in these warnings, quote unquote, that he puts out, he never warns you that it's him and his brother and his own family, and they're all married into the Darwin family, and et cetera. And for more, for people that want more on that, go to my website, Gnostic Media, and listen to my recent interview with James Corbett on the Corbett report on MK Ultra, and we go into the whole history of the Huxley family and how they're into all of this eugenics and all of this stuff. But if people don't get that he is a Fabian socialist, then they don't realize, okay, well, he's never telling me, he's telling me somebody's doing it, but he's never telling me who is doing it. He never brings attention to himself or his brother or MK Ultra that he knows about 20 years before anybody else knows a thing about it. And how would he have this type of information? And in this book, you see him talking to many of the key players, seeing him admitting that he's at these mind control conferences and all of this good stuff. So, and then when we get he's a Fabian socialist, that is their logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So that is the whole point of what a Fabian socialist is. Just step back and look at all of them, and you can see that the direction that they want to go is Huxley's Brave New World, and you can see that the drugs in the water supply and people wanting a pill for every emotion, and I can't be depressed, and I can't feel sad, I need a pill, and even some of these pills, there was one of these pills like Prozac is named Soma. So it couldn't be any more ironic. And this is Huxley's dream. He did want everybody dumbed down and drugged. And his whole idea of transcendence, when you get in and read his books, his idea of transcendence was to get the people so high on drugs that they transcended their slave state and didn't care about it.
With the economy collapsing now, Jan, it seems like the powers that be are sort of liberalizing the marijuana laws. I would assume that's to sedate people so they don't feel the pain as much.
Anyway, I think we can wrap it up now. We're kind of running along, and I think we've covered the basics. And so I think we need to let people know that your website is, one of them is gnosticmedia.com. And anything else, your books, or you have triviumeducation.com as well.
Sure.
And anything else we should mention?
Well, the show is run entirely on donations and our website sales. So anybody who orders a book or donates or anything, or
I'm trying to get Jan on. I think that this is basically one of the things I wanted to have him on about, because we could sort of see, it with how things are going. Everyone's calling each other gamma. Everyone's talking about the incels. We could see it, Luke?
Yes.
Yeah. We could see this sort of shit play out. And I'm, I've seen very similar things are playing out again. I've talked about Discordianism, the idea of a chaos deity that's all about these mischievous pranksters and Keck the frog god and all that stuff. That shit happened in the 1970s and 60s as well, But Sailing the Sea Depends on the Helmsman is a song by Mao Zedong, and it talks about, let's see if I can find the actual lyrics. I sent you the link to it, Luke. You could look into that if you want. I want to see if I could find it in the lyrics in English. Give me a second.
So powerful.
Yeah, sailing the seas depends on the helms. Life and the growth depends on the sun. Rain and dewdrops nourish the crops. Making revolution depends on Mao Zedong's thought. Fish cannot live cannot leave the water, nor melons leave the vines. The revolutionary masses cannot do without the Communist Party. Mao Zedong's thought is the sun that forever shines. So essentially what these people are doing and what the song is about is saying, we need Mao, we need a leader. We're helpless. We're fucking frightened children. We wouldn't know how to shit our pants if we wouldn't know how to wipe our own ass without Mao. That's basically what that is. So yeah, I mean, it's very freaky. And when you realize that cybernetics is about controlling, and you know that they're saying, to live life, we need to have a fearless leader. We need somebody to steer the ship. And if you look at all these, I think it's like the picture of Stalin, right? They have a picture of Stalin moving the ship, right? He's at the helmsman. He's a helmsman. Like they have the picture of, I think, Stalin at one point. Let's see if I can find it for you. We're almost done. This is very much off of Brave New World. Stalin. Let's see if I can find a copy of it. Stalin. Steering the ship. 1 second. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Here we go. We're almost done. And here you go, Luke. Take a look at that. It's very odd that they would talk about cybernetics, and we see people like, it says, Captain of the Soviet Union leads us to victory. This is from 1933, and it's who is it? The fucking retarded guy with the mustache, Stalin, moving the ship, moving the sea, moving the people on the ship. So it's very odd that you have all these, these intellectuals, which again, almost all the communist leaders are intellectuals, whatever the fuck reason that is. And they're fucking everybody. They're doing this. And we see this. And we see that, for fuck's sake, Peterson had all these fucking pictures of Stalin shit and all this communist propaganda. He wouldn't even clean his room in some cases. But yeah, I think that the Brave New World agenda is a real thing. I think that I think that there is something going on, and the more and more we see it, the more pushing for psychedelics and drugs and what have you. I think that this is a real thing. So, Luke, any final thoughts?
Let's see what we got here.
They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions, making him actually love his slavery. I think this is the danger, that actually people may be in some ways happy under the new regime, but they will be happy in a situation where they oughtn't to be happy.
Yeah, which is true. Again, we see all these SJWs happy that they lose their free speech. We see all these, these conservatives happy they get to play the role of the fighting the good fight, so to speak. Yeah. So that's pretty much that. A little bit more or less than what we got from the whole Brave New World thing. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Be good to one another. Tomorrow will be another Digital Renegade podcast. This is the end of the riff track section of the of this Brave New World that we looked into. Be good to one another. Love each other, and remember, saving the West is a side quest. The Digital Renegade podcast, riff tracks out.